And speaking of zoning characters, I suppose, we're getting Middy and Justice stepping up to the plate for our next winner semifinals set.
Look at that. Justice and Middy, huh? I feel like Justice, I haven't had a chance to cast Justice in a fair bit now. Rocking the Min Min, we're going to be seeing up against the Pac-Man. Also, characters that kind of, I mean, Min Min's still kind of a little bit more around, but like outside of like T, you don't really see Pac-Man as much anymore. You know, there was Kiwi, there was Sinji, but then I feel like they kind of fell off a little bit. Not necessarily in terms of skill, but just in terms of like the attendance. You don't just don't see them as much anymore. And the same kind of goes for Min Min. Like there's a few people out there, but in terms of like the results, you know, outside like maybe like the buzz sometimes, but rarely still, not really around anymore.
Yeah, I will say, all the same, even with the lack of Pac-Man, there is not a lack of Pac-Man up in the PNW. Two of the Pac-Mans that have been popping off lately, Rocky and JDV, Justice has plenty of experience. And so you're going to see this Ram Ram is pretty consistent right now, but that Megawatt does a really good job of pushing Pac-Man even farther out, especially with that Nair that we're seeing a lot from Justice. These Nairs are going to do a good job of setting up for the next hit of Arm, but you know what? You're going to catch a ghost for the troubles here, and Middy unable to secure an edge guard, which is what you need against Min Min, especially when Justice is going to be at the ready with this Ram Ram edge guard.
Oh boy, I love two framing, don't y'all?
Two frame, that's a 20 frame.
You're right. Like that's true. The fact that Min Min has greater access to a win condition like that is going to be extremely tough for Pac-Man. Shout out to Juvie. So it becomes difficult then to play a consistent game against Min Min because you have that in your back pocket of corner pressure and like two framing just being so accessible for the character. But in the same vein, we can never sleep on Pac-Man's aerial frame data. Frame 3 Nair, frame 5 forward air, throwing out 2 in a short hop like it's nobody's business. And then you have bell combos like that to set up for a potential edge guard. Can you finish your food? No, you can't.
That's going to be a little bit tough. Just couldn't fit the final bite. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you just got to put the leftovers down, try to get them again later. But we'll see how things kind of pan out here. As one thing that I'm already noticing is that, like, for Pac-Man, this is, I mean, I think Yin was saying this a little bit earlier that, like, clearly there's a lot of experience in the Pacific Northwest against this character because they're making it look kind of easy, right? It feels like Pac-Man can actually struggle a bit when he's so used to keeping people out at a distance. When you have these long arms that Min Min has, it's like, wow, you know, I want to be like a mid-range zoner and I can't because that's just the neutral range for this character I'm against, question mark?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Min Min. She is a anti-zoner, and so if you're trying to maintain this like long mid-range section that we're seeing Middy utilize to set up for keys, for bells, just like 5 seconds ago, all of a sudden you are putting yourself in the range for Justice to safely throw an arm. And that's what you never want to happen, because now you're off stage and you got to worry about Ram Ram. Boom, still living. But you know what? One more hit and Justice could clean up this stock right now.
It's just that easy. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, Yin. She's an anti-zoning zoner, because what every typical zoner wants to set up is conditions where you have to approach them, and it becomes a linear or limited approach game that is generally unsafe. Min Min can pressure you from full screen. She does not care about whatever tricks or traps that you're trying to set up, because she can hit them and blow up any sort of potential plans that you got going. You're forced to play a more mid to close range Pac-Man centered around your horizontal like corner carries rather than your different approach games like with Hydrant and Bell.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of, you know, in reference to what you were saying earlier about how, like, you know, even Dawson's got to use Drive Rush, right? Min Min is almost exactly like Dawson if you remove the fact that you can't hit her limbs and then also gave her a shotgun attached to her hitbox. So it's like,
pretty crazy.
It's wild, right? It's wild watching what this character can do. And clearly, I mean, a lot of the same principles apply where it's like, you can't have Min Min be too far away at any given moment, or else it allows her to get all this pressure in on you for free without much worry of retaliation. But on the other side of things, once you do manage to break that zone, if you start attacking with your fast air, you're saying frame 3, frame 5, aka quick as hell, she can really struggle to get out of that.
For sure.
Yeah. Pac-Man just has amazing aerials, but right now, Middy trying to bob and weave through, just not quite having the understanding of how to utilize his mobility to get on through, and now stuck at ledge. But you know what? Able to get off for just long enough to get the key at the ready, maybe able to take a stock if he can land it here. All right, Nair to pop him up and looking for the fire hydrant edge guard. I love the idea of that, kind of like the bowling ball that we saw utilized earlier against Base Mage. Just pop that for that tether. If you get a hit, it might kill.
We're in for a long one here, fellas, because this is Middy's really trying to find like appropriate means of approach. That I think could have just been an up smash to close out of the stock, but Justice keeping things simple, just throwing out a ton of these arms, and it's Bell against the world right now, and that Bell is not long for this world.
Yeah, Middy, I mean, one hit away effectively from losing this game, but there's also 50 seconds left on the clock. So you're really running out of time to make things happen here, and I'm sure Justice is more than aware of that at this point. They don't really have to swing, but a beautiful key is going to bring things back to even here, but up throw, not enough. Back throw might in the corner, but this is pretty much looking like Justice's W unless Middy can really finesse. Yeah, that's about as we thought that was going to go, you know?
Yeah, no, you got to be very careful. That Megawatt Nair is surprisingly quick for how deadly it is. Which, side note, I totally forgot until just now. I know I was mentioning PNW having quite a bit of Pac-Man. Fun fact, Middy is from Washington. He is also a PNW player. Given doesn't go to many tournaments as far as I could find, but did go out to Port 6, of course, to support that. So not sure if they've played before, but there is a possibility with them just being living right next to each other and being that next door neighbor that is Oregon and Washington.
Guess you can't blame any sort of connectivity issues then. You just gotta worry about the matchup if they're neighboring states. It did seem very tough. Like, that's kind of the funny part about Pac-Man is like this character's insanity. Like, just on paper, you have so many of the same bones of like a problematic trapper in the same way of Snake or Steve, where you're just able to set up walls, have insane frame data. There's almost never really a range that Pac-Man struggles at because of the utility of the bonus fruit, as well as his insane frame data, as I brought up a little earlier. But when you have the perfect counter pick, just this character that can attack you at mid to long range in quick succession when you allow them to establish that position, it just makes it really difficult for Pac-Man specifically. But there's ways around it. There's ways around every matchup. It's just a matter of how quickly Middy can adapt to the situation, as they are already looking very comfortable, relying on shield, trying to get set up, and looking to try and play around platforms to force consistent ram usage, as opposed to the quick pivots that Justice was doing earlier from Megawatt to Double Dragon and all of that different changeup that really makes Min Min dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching in full effect here already that Justice already with a slight lead, but alternatively seems very comfortable actually just kind of shielding and waiting. Seeing the hydrant there and being like, well, you know what, all it's going to do is shoot water. You might try to do like a cheeky item throw or something like that, so I'll just wait for it to be gone and then reclaim positioning on the stage. And I love that delayed kind of like miss tech in there. Kind of saves you from getting eaten by a Pac-Man down smash unless it's like charged longer. But I mean, so far, kind of looking like more of the same. I don't know if Middy has quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, I think early on, Justice just did a really good job this game of utilizing Ram to slow down the pace and call out jumps. But look at that. Backing up, popping that Megawatt on there. Justice, if you watch him play, it's all right, I'm just playing patient and I'm waiting for you to hit a button so I can whiff punish this. And that is horrifying. Look at that. You mentioned that delayed tech right there earlier to avoid the down smash and once again coming through. But you know what? That fire hydrant does a lot more than put out fires. It also can put out stocks and put out some damage. So 109 on deck, still mad doable for Middy, but they got to get out of ledge now. And ooh, a little hard to do with Megawatt on deck.
Just needed to wait. There was no pressure on ledge. Megawatt doesn't hit that low. You could just chill there.
So,
it's scary.
Fun fact, it actually depends on the character. I don't know about Pac-Man, but Megawatt spaced properly with the smash attack gets bigger, and so it can hit some ledge hangs.
Today I learned.
Dang. Today I learned indeed, right? And that's, I mean, I'm wondering. It kind of tracks, right?
Character's broken.
Like when you're busted, you're busted. I mean, why shouldn't full effect? That isn't to say Pac-Man isn't busted though. Pac-Man has a complete different slew of BS to work with here. Oh, jeez. The chunkiness on that hit, man. Min really does just carry some heavy artillery with her. But once again, kind of winding down into the final moments of this game, this time with a lot more time on the clock though, but still a pretty hefty lead for Justice. Middy, I don't know, just it feels like Justice just seems overall more comfortable in the matchup, not only in theory, but also in execution.
Yeah, look at that.
It's just perfect. Like pristine jump callouts, like forcing out the air dodge, forcing consistent recovery slow. If you see Pac-Man's going for stuff like that, like really reaching into the bag of tricks, like that's when things become extra scary, because that means they're trying to get creative for means just to get off of ledge and find ways to get back into a position of strength. The back throw not even going to do it yet. Pac-Man's back throw not the craziest. Man, Justice's ability to play off stage has been really impressive in that game. There's a lot more attempts at edge guarding, a lot more tether cancels, just to keep Middy off balance and taking longer recovery routes. So if you're conditioning longer recovery routes, that means you get easier timings on 2 frames. Forcing Pac-Man just to use up B as opposed to side B to get to ledge means that your edge guarding flowchart on him is infinitesimally easier. All of the tools are there, so I like the added pressure that Justice was putting onto Middy to really keep them off balance and turn a slow game 1 into a much quicker game 2.
I love the fact that you bring up the tether cancels, because that's a surprisingly important thing for edge guarding Pac-Man there. Because what you do is you take this route where you are drifting towards Pac-Man and you completely cancel that drift. That way you aren't getting any closer and getting any more likely to get reversaled, which Min is very prone to doing because her recovery is pretty mediocre, especially if you get hit without a jump. And so canceling that tether, you position better for the hitboxes and you make it so you're less likely to get caught up and punished. Just like you won't get caught up and punished for going ahead and drinking a little bit of juvie. Let me tell you, great flavor, a little bit of energy goes a long way.
Man, it's been a long 2-0. We may need some of that.
That's what I was thinking. You know what? Middy pop in a little bit of juvie to get ready for the Rob, I bet.
Nothing to rejuvenate your spirit, unlike some juvie, you know? Gotta go ahead, take a couple swigs, hop right back in there, use it like a senzu bean. You feel all energized, revitalized, and ready to go. More gas in the tank. This Rob already seeming to have a much better time than the Pac-Man did. I mean, not too surprising, I think. I think Rob just has some great tools to deal with characters at the mid-range in a way that Pac-Man doesn't, right? Like you have that laser that you can always throw out if Min wants to be annoying. Gyro ends up being a consistent threat on the stage. And then when you get really close, you can mess around, throw out those down tilts to be a pest, or go ahead and throw out that side special to try and get some early KOs. So definitely not a bad choice, all things considered.
Not at all here, Flambeau. And actually, it kind of brings up a little bit of deja vu because Justice, one of their many premier breakouts is that
breakups. Damn.
Breakouts. We're not getting too personal here. was Genesis 9. They played against MK Leo in an extremely close Game 5 set. And Leo, what he happened to do, after losing the first 2 games with Joker, or rather losing the first game with Joker and being put behind the 8-ball, pivoted over to the Rob, and the Rob was able to close out against Justice and put actually Leo to go on to win that bracket. So, you know, maybe lightning strikes twice here. Rob has a really good utility tool set, a lot of active moves that allow him to use hitboxes to clash with the Min Min arms, though you do have to worry about that big body getting caught kind of haphazardly.
That is the thing. If you could get in, though, that body goes ahead and changes from a curse to a blessing, because those hitboxes are almost as big as his body. Look at that. That forward air, even sniping out Justice and getting that stock, and now almost up a full stock. I will say the gyro is going to be a big thing here, and if Justice can actually get a hold of that, you can hold an item and throw your special arm first, and it'll allow you to use both arms without throwing the item. So Justice can just maintain control if he gets it, but right now he is maintaining control of this ledge. Got Middy in a bad position. Gyro in place, setting up for a tech chase, just unable to find the stock, but all the same, a great position to be had.
Yeah, Middy looking kind of stuck. You know, has been stuck in the corner for maybe the past 30 seconds. Finally, an opening here to get some damage and taking full advantage of it, but drops the conversion off of that up throw. Yeah, usually you get a guaranteed forward air or something, you know, but just, I don't know, maybe the DI up kind of caught him off guard, kind of whiffed completely on the forward air, and then ended up losing the stock because of it. And it took so long for Middy to find that opening. And so now, right back to the corner, Justice rinsing and repeating these, you know, these corner trap setups, just saying, hey, you shoot the dash attack, and now you're in the corner, let me throw out a combination of my arms here to keep you at bay. And now we have a game that has a differential, I can't even say differential of 2% at this point. In just going to say that, it's turned into a lead for Justice, just like that.
The mash out on the grab there. I was waiting for the early down throw. Middy really hunting for grabs here to get a start, to get their advantage started. That close range, so important for Rob, but the dash attack, extraordinarily risky from Justice. Kind of looking like they were expecting an early jump or forward air of some kind, trying to force a trade, or maybe even a down tilt. I wonder if Min Min's dash attack can high profile Rob's down tilt.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, something to test for later, but for now, that dash attack on block is going to be hard punished, super minus, and hey, Middy will get on the board, and we can continue to wonder if history can repeat itself.
Truly, I will say, I feel like that was the first time I saw Justice's dash attack get punished, because they aren't popping it a lot. It's just enough for him to scout out when they're going to get aggressive. And then, oh, hey, Middy, you came in a little too close to me, and boom. And so all of a sudden, instead of it being this very dangerous option for Min Min, it's a really good burst option just to check the opponent and remind them to stay back and stay patient, which at the same time is what you want as Justice.
Yeah, it's quick enough. Covers a lot of space. It's exactly what you need in a burst range. And as it keeps going, because we've just been seeing a lot of zoners here, you got to find ways to not only make how to gain your lead and how to set your own tempo, but also how to control space. And you can't always exclusively do that with arms because of the nature of how slow they are. You have to also find ways like with jabs, nairs, and like with dash attacks.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's like, it's always important to have the adequate amount of mix, right? Like, you can't stick to one game plan or else it becomes easy to read, very predictable, and your opponent will respond as such. But if you mix in, you know, a little bit of CQC in there and then go back to, you know, the long range pokes like we're seeing right now, it can be very hard to know when your opponent's going to be coming in, and makes it much more difficult to respond to you as an aggressor, right? And so we're seeing already Justice started off pretty decently, but Middy getting a pretty decent conversion there. But all things considered, even game.
Yeah, no, that nair from Middy, it's such a big move, and utilizing it to start it up. And now look at this. Bears, down tilts every 5 seconds. Beautiful rotor arm, just a little missed time. Middy really wanting to seal out a stock nice and quick to start the early lead and keep the tempo in their favor. But now set on the back foot. How do you get out of the corner? I want to see Middy start putting some pressure. Look at that laser too. Ooh, looking absolutely beautiful.
I mean, it homes. You don't have to do about it. That's why we're seeing Justice just kind of throw that stuff out, because a powered-up Dragon hits almost as hard as a Megawatt, and you got a homing laser attached to it, so when Rob decides to flutter about off stage, doesn't matter. If you're in range, you're getting smoked. The roll on gets by the ledge. Super clean stuff there from Justice, throwing out some of that adequate amount of mix in order to gain that space, as you were talking about earlier, Flambeau. Really taking advantage of the fact that now they actually have the space to utilize some of Min Min's more movement-oriented buttons.
Ooh, and I like this. Got the snipe, no double jump, so should be an easy enough edge guard here. Yeah, just will not be able to get back to the stage. But no, I like that you point that out. I mean, I think Justice is doing a really good job of mixing in those options and then sticking to that game plan. I mean, Middy has been in the corner for a lot of this game. The moments where Middy gets out, they still seem to kind of struggle to maintain footing, right? It feels like Justice doesn't have the most difficult time regaining stage control and then returning back to the game plan. So as we just saw, Middy got a couple hits. Justice immediately escapes that situation and goes right back to the comfortable zone where Min Min can really poke and aggress and not put herself at too much risk.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of different options that Justice is using to escape these CQC moments where maybe it's a quick turnaround down tilt to get out. Sometimes it's a jump with the nair or just straight up dash attack away. But now getting locked at ledge after a whiffed edge guard, that could have been big. And I love that get up attack. Not only threatening Middy if they went for, say, a up smash, but also getting rid of the gyro. But now these down tilts carrying Justice across stage, and look at that. This might be wait, still dead, even with Middy missing the fair.
That was risky as hell to go for if you're Justice, like just trying to force. You're gone. You don't have a jump. You're smoked. You're going to Twitter like that.
That was from downtown though. That gyro fell from like quite a bit high up there. I don't think anyone really saw that one coming. And then just and base and knockback on rotor arm is like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know offhand if it's more or less than Doc Tornado. I want to say it's probably a little bit less than Doc Tornado, but it's up there.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'm surprised it didn't blast zone outright, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
It felt like it came mad close. But no, it didn't matter what you did there. No jump. Min Min has awful air acceleration too. So you are absolutely obliterated for that one.
Those are the type of plays that get back into your mojo, and it's one of the one of the infinite reasons why Rob is one of the best characters in the game, both on paper and in practice, because you have the means to play at a range where something is always threatening, whether it be the robo beam to cover from full stage, the gyro, which can be used at just about any situation, and some good up-close buttons that can start combos from scrambles. And being able to consistently win scrambles is something that Middy was having a lot of trouble doing as Pac-Man, but with access to Rob down tilt and jab, neutral air, dash attack, like these grounded tools are helping Middy start things rather than just simply gain space.
Oof. Yeah. Beautiful jab to get Middy off right there. That jab, 24% for something nice and rapid. But look at this. Middy knows the win con. I am going to push you off stage, and I am going to try to kill you at 0 no matter what. I want you dead, and I don't want to have a discussion about it, all right?
Yeah, I mean, you can already see it in full fruition here as Middy, I mean, actually doing a decent job of controlling the center stage here. Tries to go for that rotor arm yet again. Does not connect this time, but despite that, still keeping up to the pressure here. You can see Justice is like, all right, hold on. Let me go to the other side of the stage, start throwing out these roly-poly-oly spaghetti arms real quick, see if I can get some of the damage back. And we're going to see if Middy allows that to happen, but so far, it's not looking like it. I actually love the stage pick here. I actually think this works in favor of Middy pretty well here.
Ooh, until you get caught up. Here's the one thing. I personally, when I played Min, Town and City was my favorite stage because these side blast zones make it so easy to cheese stocks. And that is the one thing Middy has to be aware of, is Justice converting. And we hadn't seen a lot of that until that conversion just now. So I want to see Justice try to get some more early kills. But as I say that, Middy finding the down throw, and when you're at 160, that's just GG's and a handshake. I'm taking that stock for free.
Not to mention the damage you can start up immediately, hopping right over the arm, getting into the blind spot and turning that into a nair, but the starter had no follow-up. You did the hard part. You just needed to finish. And Middy lacking in that department just in that moment, and now you're in the corner with no resources and barely a stock kissing the blast zone.
This is Rob we're talking about here, so has quite a bit of fuel to take. No punish on that. Takes the roll in. And happy to take that roll in any day of the week because you at least got back to stage. Now, granted, did get forced to the opposite corner, so was it truly worth it? Only time will tell. But anything is better than losing your stock right now. Avoiding all of these arms comes down with the neutral air, and this is your chance to gain some stage. Keep this pressure going because if you lose it, it might be a while before you have a chance to do it again. You have to get off the ledge and out of the corner.
Yeah, and you know what? Might have gotten off the ledge, but now getting caught up as well by that megawatt in neutral. So the gyro to pop him out, I love it, but don't matter. If you are jumping in these positions, it's kind of what we saw with Pac-Man. You keep jumping in those same spots, Justice is going to call it out and get some mad good damage, not to mention a stock or two. But now, locking Justice at ledge and unable to find it. Gyro in hand, though. Hold up. This is the moment, but no conversion. You needed that.
Okay, found another one, though.
There it is. Found the opposite side down smash as well. You were generally in the center stage, so it might not have mattered, but you are closer to the opposite side, so good spacing on the part of Middy. Give yourself a chance here in this game number 5. One single opener can mean so much if you could start the juggle, but Middy abandoning the pressure. Such a tense situation here. At any one hit can mean for so much damage, but unable to find any sort of starters here is Middy.
How do you get out of this situation? Middy not feeling too hot. Perhaps Town and City was just too much to get through. I was thinking that maybe with the gyro conversion, these taxi platforms, that you might be able to do something, but it looks like Justice on the other side had different plans. It's going to be a back throw. It's not enough, but we're getting down to potentially the final moments. Uses that up special to try and close the game out right there, trying to chase high, and that should be the game, and it is. Justice comes out on top, 3-2.
You can't fight it.